think we can just cut whatever hole we want in there, can't we? How's the door stuck?
It only opens from the inside.
So can we fix that?
It's on the list.
What's that?
It's on the list.
We are going to Bonavville, and it's awesome because we are going in an iconic car. This car has so much history. Now, tight timeline though, because we got to get this done, get this to Bonavville. We have to rush back from Bonavville for Michigan Miles. Michigan Miles is going to be insane because we are doing over 1,000 miles, never leaving Michigan. Michigan has more coastline than I think the rest of the entire United States, at least more than any other state. And we're going to be covering a lot of that coastline. We're going across the Mackinac Bridge, a 5-mile long bridge to the UP. Do you guys even know what the UP is? If you don't, come to Michigan, enjoy our 1 month that we get that is great every year. We got 11 months of shit, but we got one great month, and that's August. And come and join us there, Michigan Miles. We are racing at Mile and Dragway. It's the 10th through the 17th. We're racing at Mile and Dragway. We're racing Mid-Michigan, Northern, Ubly. We're spending a day doing the Dream Cruise, iconic event, and then back to Milan to wrap the whole thing up. Tickets are at sictomag.com. Now, back to the car though, because before we get to do that, we're gonna do this. This car, like I said, has so much history. And man, just a quick internet search, there is so much stuff because Freiburger's piloted this car, obviously Keith Turk, Tanya Turk. I mean, there's a whole list of people. Alex Taylor last year piloted this car. And just quick Google searches, cool videos. We're gonna give you some highlights as well as how Keith got started with this car. That's how that'll start it out. We'll give you some other stuff to just wet your whistle a little bit with the history and how well documented what this car's has done. So check out these videos along with Keith, and then we'll get back to what we're doing and how we're gonna race the car right after that. Thanks.
I'd been dreaming about racing at Bonavville since I was a kid. When I was 20, in my early 20s, I bought an Austin Healey, and I bought a book on Austin Healey's, and it talked about Donald Healey going to the Bonavville Salt Flats in 1954 and 1956, and Donald Healey went 203 miles an hour and set a record. He was the 18th member of the 200-mile-an-hour club. It's like, holy shit, this is so cool. And I dog-eared those pages, the record book pages. He had they took a bunch of cars, they did some endurance testing and stuff with some of the other Healeys. And they had drivers like a guy named Sterling Moss. I probably never heard of him, but the rest of the world has. You ever heard of a guy named Carroll Shelby? Yeah, he was one of his drivers. He was more of a chicken farmer at the time. But so anyway, he had these drivers that were incredible. George Easton Moore, and anyway, Roy Jackson Moore. He had all these incredible drivers, and he did this stuff at Bonavville, and I just was fascinated. And one night at a Christmas party, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and a couple of friends at this party, and we were talking about what's it take to go 200 miles an hour. I mean, none of us really knew what it took to do that. And the more I thought about that and got fascinated with it and talking about it, one of the guys that I was talking about that night was a really, really good friend of mine. He jumped in a swimming pool and broke his neck, and he became a quad. When Tom was paralyzed, it was devastating, genuinely devastating. I mean, I was I went and saw him in the hospital. It was right in 1998, it was right at Speed Week. I'd been planning on going to Speed Week one day, and it was the 50th anniversary of Speed Week that week. And anyway, I went and saw Tom in the hospital, and I called my wife on the phone. I was crying. It was really, really hard. And she's like, "Are you coming home?" She says, "Why don't you just go to Speed Week?" And I'm like, "You know what, you're right." So I literally got on an airplane with nothing. I had nothing. I literally had not packed to go see Tom. He lives in Atlanta. I mean, it's a day trip, you know. So I got on an airplane, literally went to the Delta counter and said, "I want a ticket to Bonavville." They said, I said, "I can go to Vegas, I can go to Reno, I can go to Salt Lake City, I don't care. Whichever flight's leaving next." So I just got on the airplane and called my dad and said, "Hey, Pops, can you handle the shop?" And he's like, "Sure," and went to Bonavville. Got to Bonaville and bought a race car. Literally, talking to this guy, one of the guys that started the East Coast Timing Association, a place that I had actually raced in El Camino I had. Anyway, go over there and he asked me to buy his Camaro, and I'm like, "Dude, it's an 80 Camaro. Why in the hell would I buy that?" He's like, "Because you can go racing." I'm like, "Yeah, but I want to build an Austin Healey." And he's like, "That's interesting, but you'd go racing with this Camaro." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I want to build an Austin Healey." He said, $800. And I said, "Okay, I guess I'm going to drive a Camaro." True story. We're literally, that's exactly how I bought the car. Paid $800 for it. Car was the most ugly thing you've ever seen in your life. I remember it had a red nose and a yellow center section and a blue tail. I mean, it was literally the most gross, nasty 70s sort of thing you've ever seen. Big white letters and white spoke wheels in the back. It was horrid. So anyway, went up there, bought the car. 3 weeks later, went racing. And literally 3 weeks later, went racing. All of that is about passion. That's the passion. I didn't have a passion to drive a Camaro, but I had a passion to go racing. And if you really have that passion, you'll figure out a way. Once you figure out a way, you get there. Once you get there, you can kind of sort through what the process is. There's a ton of people that will wait for timing, and there is no timing. Life is this freaking short. Well, I mean, Tom is a classic example of a guy that literally changed a bunch of people's lives around him. Life's short. You have to get off your ass and do what you plan on doing. So if I sat there and waited until I had everything perfect, until my business was just right and I had people in place that I could go do this, I would have never done it. Somebody just have to get off your ass and just go do it.
217-640, mile 4.
I think that did it! Almost 8,000 RPM!
People always ask, what does it feel like to go, 260 miles an hour? It's sort of like driving on the moon.
Parachute.
The biggest thing about land speed racing is that it's all about personal achievement.
Parachute. Fuel. Fire. Ignition. Parachute. Fuel. Fire. Ignition.
It's what makes our life have value.
Parachute. Fuel. Fire.
Get it out!
I really wanted to come here because I felt I had unfinished business. They could cancel this run. They could even cancel the entire meet. There's a lot of rain coming in.
Man, if that doesn't get your heart pumping and just thinking about how cool it would be to be on the salt, I don't know what does, because there's so many videos, and that's just like a little snippet of stuff that's on the internet. You can see Freiberger has so many videos of the car because he's ran the car so many times. So this, the documentation of this car, it's just such a privilege that we get to run with it. And because of that, we're coming out with a limited edition shirt for it for our trip to Bonaville this year. You can go pre-order those shirts on the website right now. And what we're doing with that, the reason we're doing a pre-order is because now we're going to offer it in not only our tri-blend shirts that are the soft shirts that a lot of people love about our shirts, but also the Gildan shirts, which a lot of the bigger guys tend to love, and we will offer those all the way up to 6X on pre-order. Now, you got a week. We're going to close off the pre-order. Dates on the website. You only have a couple days to get that off the pre-order. Once we close the pre-order, then the Gildan shirts are out of the mix and stuff, like, because then we'll just order a normal quantity, limited edition. Once they sell out, because we're just, so maybe a one-time thing that we're taking this car, or have the opportunity to take this car and go do Bonaville with it, and hopefully get a license pass, get a record. Now we're going to take you into everything that we're doing with the car and what we got to get ready in the short timeline, because it's July. We have to have this in Bonaville by the end of the month. So let's get right to it.
And that would do that. Gets it away from the water pump. That's that.
What's the tension? Oh, because it's spinning.
Yeah, because the crank's gonna tension this side, 'cause it's pulling this side. So this side's always gonna be tight. But you gotta worry about the slack side not being tight. So you're supposed to tension this side, not this side.
Who said that?
Andy, every ProCharger, Vortec, supercharger setup you ever see is always tensioning this side.
Gotcha.
But like a serpentine belt, you're not doing that. But you look at any big power blowers, you're always, that thing's straight, and you're always jamming this side down. Because the crank's pulling that, so that's tight. But there's nothing pulling this.
Gotcha.
This is getting pulled by the crank down there. So you gotta tighten that.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to think on Skinny's car, because yeah, it was on the passenger side that it was pushing in for like the big blower belt.
Right.
It was pushing in on that side.
You look at it like that, or like anything, you always have a straight line from the bottom side of the crank. And you try to jam down the top side. So we're on a tight timeline. John Enns is building the motor, so lots of help with it. It's got AFR heads on it. It's a world block. We're running a Vortec supercharger, so it's a Vortec setup, and we estimate by Turk's calculations that we need, what did he say, 900 horsepower? Yeah, 900, call it 1,000 horsepower.
So, yeah, 900-ish horsepower to set the record. The record that we're going for, not sure the exact letters, numbers, LBGQ shit or whatever that goes on for that record, but we're following a record that's a blow-through carburetor. So we've got a carburetor on the way. We have also a cubic inch limitation. So we're actually doing two different engines that are as close to identical as possible, but one is going to be, I think, 417 cubic inches, and the other one I think is 370 cubic inches. So two different cubic inches, because there's two records. One record under, don't know, gotta look up the rule, but there's one record underneath a certain cubic inch, and it's in the 240 mile an hour range. And then there's the record that is only a couple miles an hour different, but it's above 400 cubic inches range, or whatever that is. But so two records. The goal is that we're going to go out there, and we got, once again, the time frame, because literally the event is the end of the month, end of July. We are hoping to have the engine from John Enns by, well, I gave him a deadline of July 20th as the drop dead date to get it here. And then July 27th, Keith is picking up the car to take it out to Bonaville to be ready for it. So we are hoping to get the engine in right away, get some dyno tuning on it just to make sure everything runs right, everything works correctly before it gets loaded in there. So everything that is being done at the shop right now is to mock up the supercharger, do all the plumbing, do the exhaust as much as we can, cooling system, everything to have the front of the engine and the headers that we can bolt on to the other engine when we get it, hopefully drop it in, everything be good.
carburetor's on the way here, so like we'll be able to build all the tubing. They're just going to, and we obviously have the supercharger for it, they'll just put it on the dyno NA to make sure everything's good and runs right. We'll get the one engine, and then the second engine they can finish up and get to Bonavville, because I'll be going for a record, and Dave Schroeder will also be going for a record in the other class. So there was a month ago, a couple weeks ago, which we never would have made for the fact that we still don't have the engine, but there was to be like licensing passes for us to be able to get in, and obviously we weren't ready for that. But so now during Speed Week we have to get licensing passes done first and then go for the record. So we have multiple days that will be encompassed with that. I've never been to Bonavville. It's always been a bucket list, so it'll be the first time going to Bonavville and experiencing the whole thing. And we're experiencing it full bore, because we're going out there with a car, working on getting licensed, and setting a record and being in the 200-mile-an-hour club. So all within the same week. We'll see if we pull it off, but we're doing everything we can to be in shape for that. We'll get into more details, like with the engine, different components of the engine and everything, but like literally everything based on Turk's math is, here's the power level, here's the RPM, here's the rear gear we put it in, and there you go. Let it eat, and then hopefully all that stuff happens and comes into place. The best part about it is we have a proven car. I mean, this car has set so many records. I mean, and the credentials this car has means that we just don't want to fail the car, because the car literally, I think, has almost broke a record every single time it's been to an event. Quarter panels, like, I mean, just look at the stickers on the windshield from how many times it's been to Speed Week. Like, I mean, this is such an iconic car that, and then the all the different places it's been in the 200-mile-an-hour clubs across the globe. I believe that this is every track that does whatever, this type of racing, the Bonavville style racing with it. But oil pan, they are working on modifying an oil pan to hold as much oil as possible. We have to get that done here, and to make sure it fits in the car. Then we're shipping that to ends so that he can put it on the engine. Then we'll build another one, another oil pan like it, to then be able to get to him. Seat, we've already modified the seat. The last person in this car was Alex Taylor, so the seat was tight, so they've made modifications to the seat. So I haven't tried it since they did that stuff, but I should be able to fit in there now. Gotta wear a 20-layer suit with it. But yeah, I mean, this is just so awesome to be able to run in this car and then be able to go for hopefully 200-mile-an-hour club in this car. And when Alex set her record with it last year, it actually had Freiberger's engine in it with a Pro Charger on it, and we're not shooting for the same class. So like, one cool thing that Keith does is he's like, hey, like, I can come up with records, but I don't want you to set a record on top of another record that somebody already did with the car. So therefore, the records that we're going for are not currently owned by Freiberger or Alex Taylor or Keith or Tanya Turk or anybody else that set a record in this car. Actually, is it only just the 4 drivers? Like, who else has been in here? David, Connor. Yeah, so I can tell you any of these records here that, Steve Atwell, I didn't know Steve had driven this car to Bonavville for a record. Wonder if Steve was even allowed. Like, it had to feel weird because he's diehard Mopar, so I don't even know, like, him being in a Chevy, like, that might have had a Hemi in it, and maybe that was the whole thing. But you can see, like, I mean, here are the records that have been set with the car. The car's got credentials, so like I said, I don't want to let the car down. So we are hoping to do everything we can to have it good to go and head out there and set the records with it. But slight modifications. So like for example, and here's how the stuff fits in that's weird with the classes is like it's got 2 different spoilers for it that just both happen to be on here, but obviously they both won't be ran. I do know from Keith is the expert on all this stuff, but the record we are going for, this is the factory spoiler. That's the spoiler that will be on there for it. So this one will come off. It's all the stuff's on it for transportation because we got it from Arkansas, brought it up here. So that's one thing. This will come off here. We'll just run this spoiler for it. The other thing I know for sure is on the covers, like the record we're going for, these covers come off. So we won't be running with these covers in place because that puts it in a different class. And that's where it's very, very specific. Like the same thing is like I said, blow through carburetor. Well, the other is we cannot have any controls of like the timing has to be locked. No sort of computer can alter the tune-up in the car or anything like that. So it is all specific for what we're doing. So it will be a distributor setup in a locked position. There will be no fuel injects of any kind, no electronic control of anything. We are allowed to run an O2 sensor, but I mean that is just strictly for us to know what the O2's at. That sensor cannot make any adjustments to the car whatsoever. So very tight with that as far as like the different rules and just trying to figure out exactly how each one plays a part in things. So Keith will watch this video, but we got one thing to figure out is because we did not realize the intercooler had water in it, and it definitely got below freezing. So we're going to need to double check all of that just to make sure that there's nothing damaged there, because the last thing we need is that we get out there and then we get a leaky intercooler and I've actually had this happen to me on 1.0, not because of it freezing, but because of it just getting a crack in it, and the water because it's an air to water intercooler, except the air goes through, should never get wet. The water is what cools the air to then cool your intake charge. Well, if you get a crack in there and the water goes into the air, well then the water goes into the engine and it doesn't run very well. So that is the last thing we want, is that when we show up there for that to happen. So we just need to double check, make sure all that's good, for the fact that it's an Arkansas car, but it did spend last winter in Michigan, and it did spend some time in the other barn where it definitely gets below freezing. So we're gonna make sure all that's square. And I don't even know if that's on the list there, but we gotta make sure that that's good. A lot of mock-up work and a lot of stuff to get done in a short amount of time to get this thing ready to go.